welcome to another edition of the DNA Digital. Currently out on the banks with Mark Bartlett over on the Bluebell complex, and we're on the Mallard Lake. Mark's never fished this place before, but he's fished many pressured day ticket waters like this one. So Mark's going to show us throughout the whole of this DNA Digital how he goes about catching fish from these pressured day ticket waters. Not only that, we've got plenty to show you from the likes of Chris Bones. We've got Ross Partridge over on Farriers, where he's had a mega season on that syndicate. Also, we've got some new ongoings over at the factory. We've got loads of new products to show you and a bait tip from Sir Mark Holmes. So in the meantime, Bart's getting his rods out behind me, as you can see at the moment. So we're going to catch up with him, but we've got some new stuff going on at the factory, so we're going to have a look at that first. New for the DNA Baits factory is this state-of-the-art rolling machine, capable of rolling 500 kilos of bait every hour. But due to our rigorous bait checks, we're producing 250 kilos of bait every hour with this new machine. All the baits are checked before the boiling stage, along with the water temperatures, and then the baits are checked again after the boiling period. We ensure that all of our baits are perfectly round and that the quality is second to none. With the efficiency of this machine, we can ensure that every order is met with the freshest bait possible. Along with this new machine is a new 8mm roller. These new 8mm baits are as round as an 8mm can be, along with our 12mm, 15mm, 18mm and 22mm rollers. Two new products out on test at the moment is the new Squid and Worm Liquids. We're getting feedback from our consultants, and they're telling us that these two liquids have already changed their angling for them. So these two liquids, keep an eye out for, which are being tested at the moment and will soon be in the DNA Baits range.
Nice little alarm clock.
Bit early though.
It is a bit early, yeah. I put the kettle on just a minute ago and stuck it on. I nodded back off with the kettle boiled dry. Oh yeah, sit up and be all carpy.
I was going to say, why did you put the kettle on?
I thought I'd be all carpy Lee and just watch them showing, but it just drifted back off and pulled the kettle clean dry.
Oh, I thought you was filling up your hot water bottle or something.
Yeah, just for you.
Feel any good?
Yeah. It's a bit like a carp, to be honest.
Oh yeah, thanks for that.
It's on the top. I hooked it in about 15 foot of water. The leads come off. But by keeping the rod tip down, it's just staying on the top all the way and coming back over the top of the weed. It's quite weedy in places.
Nice. Well, whilst you're playing that, we shall play the Ross Partridge section and then come back to, no doubt, see you lose this one.
Yes, Lee.
Cool.
Here we are on Farriers again. Another session on the cars. Down for 4 nights. Cracking little lake. Well, say little, it's 32 acres. Centred in the middle of the Cotswolds water park. Some absolute cracking commons in here. Possibly 2 50-pound commons, a couple of 40 mirrors. There's not many mirrors, but I have had 3 of them up to date. Biggest fish so far is a 45-pound common, which come in October last year on a 48-hour session. Bit of a blank to start with, but soon got into the fish and ended up with 3 fish, with one of the biggies known as John Doe, which tipped the scales at 45.5 pound, which is my PB common as well. But yeah, I've had a cracking season. I've had 4 40s out so far, including a 40-pound common off the top, which fell to a little zig. Obviously been soaking in a sticky sweet, which was bit of a highlight of my summer campaign. The session I had that 40 common off the top, there was quite a few carp in the area. There was a couple of weed beds there was, and they were just behind the back of this one weed bed. It was a real tight cast to get it right where you wanted it. It took maybe 2 or 3 casts to get it there. Once I was fishing in that area, I was just flicking PVA bags of pellets and what have you over the top. I had 2 takes within half hour. Fortunately, I lost the 2 down to the thick weed, but on the 3rd take, it all went to plan. I had my first Farriers carp off the top in the net, which was a 28-pound common. It was a lovely common, real dark common. Literally 20 minutes later then, I repositioned the rod. Off it went, 40-pound common on the bank. I ended up with 4 fish off the surface. I lost 3 fish. But the 40-pound common made it up, and I was well happy with that. Another cracking session on the card. I was down for my usual 48-hour setup on the Friday. The lake was really busy, so there was a couple of swims available. I just jumped in, sort of an unfavoured swim, but I couldn't get near any of the fish, so I just opted to sit out of the way and in sort of a quiet area of the lake. I was up early the Saturday morning. I seen quite a few fish showing a certain area of the lake, and I noticed the one bloke, he was packing down. I couldn't believe it. He was actually going home on the Saturday. So I quickly got my gear round there. I only had 1 night left set up for the day. Didn't see no more fish, but I knew they'd be back. I just had a gut feeling they'd be back the same time next morning. 12 o'clock at night, the line had started. At past 12 then, 1 toner, I couldn't believe it. I didn't expect the fish to be back in the area that quick, but obviously they turned up a bit earlier than the previous morning. First run that weekend, 43-pound common, one of the main targets of the lake. It was a month after spawning, so I think previous it'd come out at 47 pounds. Blown away with it. It was absolute stunning common. Absolutely love the lake. Been on Farriers now for 1.5 years. I've done a lot better than I would have expected. I initially joined the venue to actually catch a 40-pound common, English common. Done better than expected. I think I've had nigh on close to 30 fish now. I've had four 40s now, like say up to 45 pounds, over 10 30s up to 39 pounds. Main tactics really, I sort of watch everyone spomming up, and I sort of went the opposite way. Most boys spom up, they sort of pick their area, fish tight little patches, and I went opposite. I thought, right, I'm a boilie man and a throwing stick man myself, so most of my fish have come from simple 30 to 50 baits, but literally a good spread of boilies. I'm fishing single pop-ups over the top. I've done really well on they love the milky malts in here, the white pop-ups. Started off the year last year, I was on the switch. I think I had a 33-pound common, knowing they like a really sweet bait in here, and they do like a nutty bait. I opted to try the nutters out, the Nutter S. Having looked back, I've had a cracking season on the nutters. Certain times of the year, I have put a lot of bait out, but I don't tend to stick with just a boilie approach. I like to crush up, maybe 4 or 5 key, I'll just crush a lot of it. A couple of halves, a couple of holes, nothing major, and I have been using the bit of hydro wheat and a bit of hemp oil just to slick up the water up, and when the fish come over you, the slip patches, the oil is just pounding up off the bottom. Rig wise, I do like fishing little pop-ups. I love the German rig. If I fish the pop-up rig, the German rig, I've done quite a few fish for me this season. Lead setup, keep it simple as well. I don't like obviously it's a lead core band and a leader band on Farriers, so most of my fish have come to a naked setup. I'm not a fan of tubing. Really looking forward to the rest of the season on Farriers now. Like I say, that 50-pound common it's always in the back of your head that it is in there. Potentially there's 2 50-pound commons, and I'd really like a couple more of the midders. Yeah, looking forward to it. Can't wait to see what the rest of the season brings now.
What did you do to catch this one?
Filled it in. I'm saying too much yet, Lee, because I ain't got it in.
No, it tends to be your problem, doesn't it, Bart, is getting them in?
No, just found a spot in amongst all the weed. on the nicest spot I could find. Got a bit of gear onto it, you know, just a sort of standard spod mix with these sort of waters, especially like these gravel pits. A couple of rigs, well, all 3 rods on over the top, nice and accurate, believe it or not. Yeah, I'm going to bite off it.
Don't whinge.
No, when have I ever moaned?
Come off it, Mark. You moan all the time.
She's in the bag, Lee.
Bloody hell.
As predicted.
That's the smallest common in the lake. Yeah, I need you to do that again. It's like a seed off of Baywatch. Go for it, Bartlett. Yeah, just come back and do that once more.
Not quite as big as Ross's fish, but she'll get there one day. Yeah, nice fish, caught off the baited area that we've put out there. Thought we'd have a few more, to be honest, and it is looking very, very dead. I've caught this one. A guy 2 pegs up to the right's had a bite, and nothing else has been caught last night. And if I'm totally honest with myself, you know, this is classed as not a prolific lake, but it is classed as one of the easier lakes on the complex. And I would rather be struggling just across the road there. I think there's a couple of 50s, about 8 or 9 40s, and an absolute boatload of big 30s in there. So what we'll probably do is get this back, going to wind the rods in, have a wander around the Swan Lake, which has got some really, really big fish in, see if we can move on to a decent peg over there, and see if we can catch one as big as what Ross was catching.
You have a celebratory fist pump in the air over a 14-pound common?
Well, you can.
Yes! Yes, Ross, nice one.
Listen.
Chris Bones. Fish with him? Fish with him in the World Champs, and yeah?
Who's that?
You know, the Bones.
Bonio. There's only one Bonio, he's an absolute legend. I actually tried to grow a beard the other week just because of a bit of beard envy off of Bones. He's got a nice little moustache on the go. But yeah, he's done a piece as well, and he's fishing over on B1 where he had a few fish, loving life, and yeah, part of it. Go and have a look at that, shall we?
Let's do this.
My angling in general tends to really be mostly match fishing, to be honest with you. I spend most of my time researching and doing as much delving into the lake that I've got the next competition on. You know, very soon myself and my partner Neil Rivers are going to be on here on B1. It's our qualifier for the UK Carp Champs. So naturally, I'll get down here, probably try and get down 4 weeks before and try and do at least one night a week before the competition, try and fish different parts of the lake, things like that. Try and suss out any little edges that I might be able to find, and obviously in the match fishing side of things, everything is about edges, because you know, people turning up here, everyone knows maggots work really well, but now with Linear changing the rules on maggots, they've now been stopped in the competitions. Sweet corn was always a good one, as was hemp and pellet and things like that. But you know, you can go out into the match fishing side of things and think that you can do the same as everybody else, but if you do the same as everyone else, you're only ever going to catch the same as everybody else. And it's the little edges that you manage to find. And I think definitely for me, the most important part of our match fishing is the bait, because that's where your edges come from. It doesn't matter what rig you're using or things like that, because you'll always use the rig according to what it is you're fishing over. It's what's on the end that counts, and what you're feeding and how you feed. And I've spent most of my winter this year sat on a matchbox, and the reason I did this is because if you watch the match anglers sat on the pole and sat on the feeder and things, they manage to get carp to feed quite hard sometimes during the winter. Now, as carp anglers, we tend to go out and, you know, we might be lucky to catch the odd fish. They'll sit there and catch. I watched Grant Albert at Larford quite a few weeks ago now in February, and it is Baltic cold, and he had 223 pound of carp from down the edge. Now that says to me that the match anglers have got something to offer us. So me being a match angler in the carp scene, I've spent quite a lot of my winter watching what they're doing, and you know how they're picking up decent sized double figured fish just off a method feeder no bigger than a 50p piece. So I've been incorporating that into bits and bobs from DNA, and with Jace we spoke a little bit about other bits and liquids and different powders. I know we've got some new bits coming out soon to do with the Evo range, and those powders are going to be probably being used quite a lot in our match scene. Other than that, I don't tend to get much time to go and do what I'd class as my normal fishing. Being part of the England team and stuff, we're very dedicated to our match side of things. So, you know, we're out practicing casting all the time, making sure we can fish effectively at range, because in a lot of matches, having that edge of range is just another little bit you can add to make you better at it than everybody else. And if you want to stay at the top, you have to dedicate yourself to it. And I spend many a night stood down in my garage tying different rigs. You know, it's not just, there's not one rig for everything. You know, we'll have 100 PVA bag rigs tied, 100 pop-up rigs tied, 100 multi-rigs tied, 100 zigs tied, and we'll have all these different options so that when it comes to a match, bang, 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 we're on it. However, it is very much a different style of fishing to what a lot of people think of when it comes to carp fishing. We tend to push very hard to constantly try and get a bite, and we don't tend to sit in the back and relax. It's quite nice actually when the end of the year comes and the competitions are over, end of September, October time, because I can actually do a bit of my own fishing then. Last year in November, I always tend to do a little bit for myself in November, and I fished on Manor at Linear. It's a lovely lake, and I've always enjoyed fishing down there. I was lucky enough to have Mr. Ridiculous out at 42.10. That was right at the end of November, just before the start of December. That was on one of the new 12mm PB pop-ups. Found a nice little area a little bit further out than what a lot of people have been fishing on there. Put quite a bit of bait in for the time of year. It was back when you were allowed to use some maggot. So I am a big particle angler. I'm not a huge boilie angler. I tend to fish with a lot of particles, a lot of corn, hemp, party blend, tigers, things like that. But I tend to use a lot of liquids and powders to then make them different to what everybody else is using. So I had a relative bit of success on there in November, and then December and January I've concentrated my time sat on the match box. I even had to go with the pole for the first time, just seeing if I could get carp feeding. You know, another thing those match anglers seem to do is it's amazing how they're catching these fish, and you're looking at them and you're watching a guy play a 20-pound fish on a pole, and it's like, wow, how did he get that bite when I can sit there for 3 or 4 days and be biteless? But he's only done a 5-hour match, and he's had a 20 and a couple of low singles and a couple of double figured fish. And you know, so don't ever look at match anglers and think that they're any different to a carp angler, because they're not. They've just got different ways of looking at it, and you can take a little bit from the match anglers the same as they're taking a little bit from me. Other than that, plans for this year, obviously working for Tracker takes up a lot of my time. I do tend to get at least one night in a week. I'm lucky enough that to have a very understanding missus, and her and the little one like to have girls' night on a Friday night. So they stay in, eat popcorn, watch movies, and I'm evicted, which is perfect by me, because that means I can go fishing. So I tend to finish work on a Friday and try and find somewhere to fish, normally associated to where I've got a match. However, doing the job I do, I tend to travel around the country quite a lot, and you meet a lot of people in the trade, and they're all fishing different syndicates. So I am getting to do quite a few odd nights here and there on random lakes that I know nothing about, which has actually been quite enjoyable. Not with masses of success, I must add, but I have been enjoying going and doing that side of things, of just chilling with some new mates that I've met through the trade. I spend a bit of time on acorn fish with Tom and Mark down there, because it's on one of my areas, Bristol, and I can go and sit in Bristol, do a couple of shops down there, and then I can pop and see Bart and Tom, have a night at Acorn. Normally can get Tom to pay for the food. Bart very rarely pays for the food. Bart very rarely pays for anything, to be honest with you. Yeah, he's a bit tight, old Bart. God love him. So this year for me it's all about the England qualifications for Hungary. I'd like to keep myself in the squad. Hopefully get behind the rods again this year. It was a difficult year for us last year in France. We did okay for the year. We came 6th overall, and out of 29 countries, that's good going. Obviously the year before we won. We'd like to try and get back up on the podium again this year. Hungary will be a bit of a different animal. It's a lot harder, 1,300 miles away. It's a long way to travel, but we're all up for it. We're all prepared, and we'll try and get out there a little bit. We've got our qualifiers for the British and the Erics in March. So Neil will be practicing down at Orchard Farm because that's local to him. For me, I'll practice on B1, and then hopefully we'll find some little edges that will enable us to qualify for the semis. Other than that, that's about it from me. So I hope you've got a few bits and bobs, and you've taken a little bit of what I do and how I look at my fishing. And don't, if I can say anything, don't look away from other forms of fishing. Don't become too blinkered, because it's the other forms of fishing that can burn the passion inside you when you don't have time to go carp fishing and you can't dedicate the 12 hours you want to go for, 24, 48 hours. Go and do something else. Just have a rod in your hand, because it keeps you in tune with what's going on with the water. This winter was a very difficult winter for everybody. Nowhere's really fished that well. Even on the match scene it hasn't done well, but having that bite, they ask me, why do you get so excited when you get a bite on the tip? And it's because I sit for so long waiting for a bite that I enjoyed catching fish, and keeping me in tune when the fish were feeding meant that I could bring that into my carp angling. So don't forget, it's all about getting out. Even if you can only get out for a quick night, keep your family happy. That's the important thing. Get out fishing, but keep your family happy, because your family are the ones that allow you to go fishing.
What's going on, Bart? What's happening?
Go away, Lee.
Come on, what's the story?
Well, I'm on Kingfisher.
Yeah.
And, right load of big uns having it. Get them going, think, here we go. Thank you very much. Get the controller out. Oh, yeah. Mint. You couldn't write a story, you couldn't write a book on it.
Oh.
Yeah, go on, mate. See you later. Oh, are you joking? Lippy.
Don't swear.
Soaked by a flaming skimmer. Turn that thing off. Go on. And it's had me controller flame as well. Would you believe it?
Of all the big uns that live in Kingfisher that we had going.
Off the top. I've had my rod pulled out my hand, first chuck. Oh, that's it.
Oh, brilliant. Just brilliant. Hey, get on, mate.
Well. What's wrong with you?
Easy.
Just gonna have a look now at the two presentations, my two favoured presentations for these sort of waters, and they're a pretty, go-to method really. This is just a standard leg clip setup. I got a 15 pounder at length there, and that's just a little 12mm S7 wafter barrel and half a PB 10mm pop up on the top, and that will just sit down nicely over the spod mix and sort of replicate the free offerings that I'm putting out. You can obviously match the wafter barrel to whatever bait that you are feeding in your spod mix. This time is the S7, and that is a perfect presentation for 99% of the fishing situations. If the conditions allow it, and also a real good thing for a long range single hook bait approach would be a solid bag. And when you are just scratching for a bite, sometimes this can be the difference, fishing a solid bag. And in there I've just got a nice heavy lead to keep the bags flying out, especially if there's a bit of wind. When you hit the clip with a heavier lead in the bag, it will sort of go down on the spot a bit better. Any side wind, and it'll just kite round off your spot. Little uncoated hook length and a little 10mm PB pop up, and that's just sunk with the weight of the hook. And if it is lifting your hook off the bottom a little bit, just get a little bit of wire out the middle of the leg core and just poke a hole in there with a bait needle and just put it in and trim it off until it's just sitting down really nice. Or you can use a PB wafter barrel as well. I just like these ones because they're a round hook bait, and I like using like the small hook baits almost to replicate the bit of sweet corn that I'm putting in the spod mix.
So as you can see in the background, Mark Bartlett's now reeling his rods in, and his session at Bluebell's come to an end. So that's a little insight into Mark Bartlett's fishing on these pressured day ticket waters. I'm going straight from here to the semi-finals at the BCAC, where I've been following Luke Church and Kev Grout, and they're hoping to secure that spot in the finals of the British Championship. So in the meantime, I'll see you later from him, and I'll see you on the other side. Well, where we are at the BCAC then, and behind me you can see Kev Grout getting some bait out. So the hooter's already gone for the lads to bait up. They get an hour before the hooter goes for them to start fishing. So they're getting some bait out at the moment, and I think I'm more tense than these lads, to be honest with you, because they're hoping to secure their spot in the final over at Raysbury. So Luke's tying a few rigs, getting them last minute preparations. I'm running round like a madman, but these boys are just cool as anything and just getting on with the job in hand. So I'm going to be here for the next 48 hours following these two lads' story on the BCAC. Let's hope they qualify. Right, so the hooter's just gone for fishing on the BCAC semi-finals. The boys are just behind me here, getting their rods out now in the hope to secure that place in the final. So all action stations at the moment, all the baiting up's been done for the minute. No doubt these boys will be baiting throughout the day, so I think they're going in with zigs and spodding over zigs at the moment, and then they might change their tactics and this, that and the other. I ain't a match angler anyway, I just like being here filming all this stuff. I'm more tense than what these boys are. Like I say, they're absolutely cool as anything, taking it in their stride, I suppose. You know, this is something that these two boys do a lot. So yeah, best of luck to these two lads in the next 48 hours, and hopefully we see plenty of fish caught. behind me, an awesome start for the lads. We're only 2 hours in as well, and this is Kev's second fish that he's just landed there. So yeah, it's looking good for the boys at the moment. They've already had a good omen. Last year when they qualified on B1, they had a 7-pounder, and this year their first fish was a 7-pounder as well. So what are you saying there? Another one? Another 7-pounder. So yeah, definitely a good omen at the moment. So Kev's running round, it's all manic in the swim. It's absolutely epic at the moment. Quite enjoying this match fishing. So yeah, no, it's cool. Lads are off to a good start. Let's hope they're off to a good ending as well. Bloom.
After a few fish yesterday that were sort of smaller in size, last night we were surprised, happy to see this 29.4. Nice way to start the day, sort of in the early hours. Sort of be working the swim again today and hoping we can get a few more of these. Back she goes.
Well, it's been a great start for the lads this morning. Luke was lucky enough to buy himself a bite with a big one at 29 pounds and 4 ounces. Not long after that, they landed a 22-pounder, and then they've just put back a 19-pound 4-ounce mirror as well. So we think they're in second place at the moment. The guys on the opposite side, they're having it off. They're like 600 pounds or something like that, but it's always the first, second, third and fourth place that matter in this semi-final. So these boys are looking pretty at the moment in second place, but you know, it's all to play for at the moment. There's still another 24 hours to go of this match, so you know, there's a lot of fish in B1, and as you can see in the background at the minute, Luke is hooked into the 5th fish of the day. So yeah, it's looking good for these lads. So let's get in on the action and hope that Luke can bank this next fish.
Yes. Come on. Oh, I love marble ones. Oh, very special catch.
Listen. Well, we've just caught up with Peg 12, currently holding second place, and it's halfway through the match on the second day, sorry. So we've got 24 hours left, guys. You're in a brilliant position. You're in second place. You have got a lot to chase, but how do you feel you're doing at the moment?
Right, yeah, it's quite steady now. We're starting to get a few more regular bites. The first half of the match's been quite patchy really, but we're starting to get a few more regular bites and working at it a bit more, and yeah, a bit
Have you
consistent.
changed your tactics at all?
Yeah, we definitely had a change. We've been a bit frustrated really because Wayne Mansford is doing really well. He's directly opposite us, although it's quite a long way away. We sort of felt like we should be getting bites. So we just changed recently and managed 3 or 4 bites in the last sort of half hour or so. So yeah, it's going well. Fingers crossed, we've worked something out now and we can keep working at it.
And as a team, as Team Carp Talk, you're currently in first position.
Yeah.
You've got 2 teams chomping at your heels, which are the RAF guys and also Bait Bucket. You worried about them at all?
Well, we just keep doing what we're doing, you know. I mean,
what's in front of us.
Exactly, yeah. You know, the team event's very important to us, but we need to think about ourselves as individual anglers and as a pair. But yeah, I mean, it'd be awesome to win it again.
We're kind of just focusing on our swim and just fish as hard as we can, as we always do. Yeah, just catch as many fish as we can and hopefully the results come through, really.
Yeah,
well, guys, you're doing great, and hopefully you can keep up the good work and hopefully have a podium position
Fingers
tomorrow
crossed.
lunchtime.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Right then boys, going into the second night then.
Yes, mate.
We don't actually know where we are though, do we? We think we're second, but...
Second to 4th,
Yeah,
roughly. There's
fairly sure.
Yeah, there's 4 pairs at the moment catching relatively consistently, so we're just keeping an eye on sort of 2 other pairs who have had a few but haven't caught too many and hoping they don't start catching. But we've had a few fish today, so we're confident of a few tonight hopefully.
Drop.
Right then, the rods have been quiet all afternoon. Slight change of tactics. 10 minutes later the rod was away and this beauty was on the end. 31.4 puts us back in second place, I believe. There's still fish out there, so hopefully there'll be more to come.
What a morning it's been for these 2 boys. Watching these 2 lads and the way that they've worked this swim to their advantage has just been mega. Luke's playing one at the moment that we've got a feeling could be quite a big one. 10th bite this morning, so yeah, we're hoping sort of like next door. They were the guys that they were sort of chasing for second place, but I'm sure these boys have secured second place now, but there's still a few hours to go of this match and it could all change because on a late light B1, you know, it's happened for these boys last year. They had loads of bites on the Sunday morning. I think you got second last year, lads, didn't you? Was that right, in the semis? Third last year in the semis. You know, a lot happens on the Sunday morning of these matches, but it's definitely played to their advantage this morning. So yeah, they're just plugging away at it, constantly baiting all night last night. It's hacking down with rain, and these boys are out there in amongst it, and yeah, fishing hard and doing well. We're adamant that this is a good fish that Luke's got on here, so yeah, tense times as always in these matches. You know, I've been like a coiled spring from the minute that I've got here, and these two boys just cool as anything and getting on with the job in hand. So it's been wicked to see all the different sort of tactics that they've used, different depth zigs. The guys have like used different bait, you know, gone further out in the pond, shorter the pond, you know, they've worked the swim really well, and I don't think they could have fished it any better. So yeah, this has been really good to see, and obviously it'll be really nice to see these boys in the final, and the finals over at Raysbury, and it's a totally different venue to this one. So again, all the tactics and everything change when they go to Raysbury. So yeah, that's if they go to Raysbury, of course. You know, all can change in the next 3.5 hours here, but the boys are definitely looking pretty at the moment. So it's quite a tight swim in here as well. You know, like last night, the boys were playing fish and wiping out rods, and I mean, it was a monsoon out here, and you know, I'm cooped up in my bivvy watching these boys, and you know, they're watching some of the lads anyway. I went to bed quite early last night, about 12:30. I don't think these boys have actually been to bed, so yeah, they've worked hard at it, really hard. Fish fight so hard in here, you know, it's proper tense playing them, especially when you're in this match situation. Here we go, so it's getting ready for the net now. Yes, it's in the net. Yes, boys! Epic. Mate, that was epic. That was a wicked fight there from Luke, you know, and just the roller coaster ride of these matches is unbelievable. 1 minute, you know, you're up there. They lost a couple yesterday when they really needed to have a couple of bites as well. So, you know, every single fight on these matches is proper tense. That epic. And that fish is in the net. It's a nice fish. Let's have a look at it.
After a late draw, 10th out of 13, we was quite happy with the peg, to be honest. We had a game plan. We chopped and changed for the first 24 hours, managed to nick a few bites. We had it in our heads that our swim was going to get better and better as the match went on anyway. Change of tactics yesterday afternoon, had 4 quick bites off it, so we stuck to that. We just kept working the swim, and gradually the swim's got better and better, and the spots are rocking now. So as you can see, it's 23 common and 24 mirror. Nice brace we just had in the last hour, so things are looking good towards the end of the match.
Awesome fishing.
Right, well, it's nearing the end of the match now for these two lads, and there goes the whistle. Kev's in the background here at the moment. He's playing one. They've not long landed 3 fish. Looks like Luke might have one on, either that or Kev's wiped him out, one of the two, but it's been an epic session for these two lads that have secured their position in the final. So they've come to do what they had to do, and they fished really well. It was great seeing these lads and following their story so far. So yeah, absolute epic session for these two boys. We'll catch up with them once they got these fish sorted and got these fish in at the moment. Church has got another bite now. It's a shame really that this didn't happen sort of yesterday, and they could have competed with the lads in first place opposite. But you know, Ryan Need and Wayne Mansford opposite, they've fished really well and yeah, caught a lot of carp. So yeah, these boys definitely in second place and definitely going to the final. Epic.
Rolling. Here we are, brace of 20 to finish off the match. You know, I think the amount of effort we put into this match, we do definitely deserve a reward and get back to Raysbury. But you know, you've got to be where the fish are, and they were stacked up out in front of us, and we just made the most of it. You know, using good quality baits, the right rigs, the right tactics, and keeping an eye on other competitors to make sure we know how they're fishing and how they're taking, you know, attacking the actual match itself. So So we just use our experience really, and I think we deserve it. So let's move on to Raisbury now and hope we can have a real result there and win the British Championships.
Yes, boys. Awesome. What an epic semi-finals that was for Kev and Luke. I'm currently out on the bank and getting ready for a match myself. Obviously, I'm not into me match fishing as I've said before, but I'm currently in the middle of Carp Wars, and yeah, I can't really obviously let a lot on of what's gone on so far, but I'm getting ready for my third match now against Mr. Ian Russell. So in the meantime, I'm going to get everything ready for that. Obviously, I'm really looking forward to filming Kev and Luke over at Raisbury in the finals, and I really hope for the pair of them that they win that. So, you know, it'll be their third year in a row now that they've got into the finals as well. So third time lucky, let's hope so. So I was going to put my diary on the digital now, but I think we've got so much content on this DNA digital that we'll probably leave it, because there's enough of what I've been up to fill up a whole DNA digital. So we'll leave that for another time. So in the meantime, I'm going to leave you with Sir Mark Holmes and his bait tip.
Bait tip time. All of you know about these, and I get asked constantly, PMs and questions at shows, what's the best way to get the best results? Well, let me give you a little tip. Hard to believe, but these little gems are 3 years old, and they are as hard, almost, as a boiler that's been boiled for about 30 seconds to a minute. What that does is that allows you far more flexibility when you come into the actual important bit, which is fishing them. And the one thing I'd say to people is do a little bit of preparatory work with your EVO kits on your hook baits before you go fishing, and allow them to hair dry. What that does, that creates a tight bind on the actual bait, so you'll get a slow release. And that slow release means that the actual attractiveness is going to last far longer than an EVO made on the bank. Just one little snippet for you before we finish this clip. If you look closely at those, you'll see these are the new spirulina dedicated wraps, and you can see how tight they are, and you can see the cured inner. Now that cured inner is releasing the natural salts all the time, so it basically means that if you make up a batch of these, they can last 2 or 3 years, because the natural preservative of the salt leaking out into the spirulina helps to keep it preserved. So a little tip, do the preparatory work on the bank, and you can have hook baits from the EVO kit for 2 to 3 years. All the best.